After a mostly lackluster winter for much of New England in the snow department, meteorological spring came along and the snow really started falling for northern New England. From mid March to early April, four impactful storms rolled through New England, bringing heavy snow, soaking rain, and in some cases, icing, wind, and power outages. Before this stretch of weather in New England's neighbor, Nova Scotia, was getting all of the snow in February. We noted in an article that if the pattern was set up just a bit differently, it would have been New England getting in on all the snow. In February, parts of the province of Nova Scotia saw upwards of 80 inches of snow. Heading into March, the pattern shifted, allowing New England to get in on the precipitation parade after February produced below average precipitation for most of New England. The most important change in the new pattern was the formation of a Greenland block. This led to a negative North Atlantic oscillation along with a strongly negative Arctic oscillation. This setup, especially toward the end of winter, is perfect for coastal storm formation along the East Coast. The first storm, which occurred from March 9th to the 10th, brought a general 8 to 14 inches of snow to the Green and White Mountains, along with flooding rains and yet another round of intense coastal flooding for the northern coast. During the night of March 20th, just after the official kickoff to astronomical spring, a potent clipper system zipped through New England, delivering another 8 to 14 inches of snow for some in northern New England. As we continued to dig deeper into spring, the storms intensified. Just a couple of days after the clipper system, a major storm brought 6 inches of snow to much of northern New England with a large swath of 12 to 24 plus inches, with a maximum of about 33 inches in West Windsor, Vermont. The Green Mountains more or less got hammered in March to the point where Killington Mountain Resort dubbed the month Miracle March after a lackluster winter for snowfall. This storm also brought another round of soaking rain to central and southern New England and a rapid ice storm to the Maine coastal plain. This ice caused a rapid power outage situation. After steering clear of major outages for most of that day, the evening of March 23rd saw an extremely rapid rise in outages. As late as 7 p.m., outages across New England remained under 5,000. By 11 p.m., the outages had ballooned past 200,000 amid extensive tree damage, mainly across York, Cumberland, Sagadahoc, and Lincoln counties in Maine. In early April, the final storm of this spring blitz came along, bringing yet another widespread 12 to 24 inches of snow for northern New England. This last storm of the stretch brought snow farther south than the previous storms, with portions of the Berkshires and Worcester Hills seeing over half a foot. This storm, a full fledged nor'easter, brought strong winds and coastal flooding as well, leading to another round of significant power outages, especially to the already hard hit York and Cumberland counties. This storm was a long duration event due to the aforementioned Greenland block. The storm stalled out and eventually did a loop in the Gulf of Maine. While the storm did weaken as it sat in the Gulf of Maine, it brought continued snow showers to the mountains for days. When all was said and done, the snowfall amounts weren't record breaking or anything like that, but it did come as a shock after one of the warmest winters on record for most of New England and far below average snow depth. Coming into March, there was little snow on the ground outside of the mountains. Most areas had a snow depth of 6 inches or less. On March 1st, Chimney Pond in Baxter State Park had a snow depth of 17 inches. By March 26th, the park reached its maximum snow depth for the month at 53 inches. The maximum amount of snow dropped in New England from these four storms combined adds up to 85 inches. As one would expect with spring snowfalls, it was a rather elevation dependent event. In March, there were plenty of areas that saw below average snowfall for the month, even in northern New England. Of course, the map that's being shown right now and this average snowfall does not include the most widespread snowfall that occurred at the beginning of April. Despite the excessive snowfall for some, this stretch of weather continued the above average temperature trend for New England. This led to marginal temperatures with a wet, heavy snow, along with some icing and sleet. All of these storms caused power disruption, with really the exception of the quick hitting Clipper. The other three storms, however, combined to produce nearly 750,000 outages across New England, with over 500,000 happening in Maine. Overall, it was an extremely wet month and record breaking, or near record breaking in some cases, for precipitation. That is frozen and unfrozen water combined. Bangor saw by far their wettest March on record, seeing just under 9 inches of precipitation. Caribou and Holton also saw record months. Southern New England mostly missed the snow, but they made up for it in rainfall. Each of these storms brought 1 to 3 plus inch rain amounts, along with constantly rising and falling rivers across southern New England. As we now enter into mid April, the pattern is finally beginning to ease up. Snowfall outside of the highest peaks has just about wrapped up for the season, and no major storms are in the pipeline heading toward the end of April.